What was life like for you before all of this?
Well, first of all, I want to say that this life, what I live today, was not in my thoughts when I was a kid. I never thought that, like, this wasn't the North Star. The North Star was not, oh, I want to be whatever we call this. My North Star was, as simple as it sounds, I just didn't want to be broke. That was my North Star.
Could ride this out and let this thing write itself out and figure out the right way to live. But it's definitely not through war.
Look, I feel like I agree with you on that. And my hope was, in the spirit and vein of what you were saying, is that riding it out, getting more information. Let's take you back for a second. The man who raised me, who was my dad, Rocky Johnson.
Right.
His dad died when he was 13. The holidays that came up after his dad's death, a new boyfriend was in picture. Boyfriend gets drunk, pisses on the turkey. My dad's 13. He grabbed a shovel, a big shovel, my dad did, and drew a line in the dirt and said, if you cross that line, I'm going to kill you. The drunk asshole crossed the line. He knocked him out, cold as a block of ice.
Your dad knocked him out?
My dad knocked him out with a shovel and tried to kill him.
Wow.
13. They're dirt poor. They live in Amherst at Nova Scotia. The cops come, and the cops say, well, he's still unconscious, but he's not dead. When he wakes up, one of two things is going to happen. He's going to kill your son, or your son is going to kill him. So the cops' recommendation to my dad's mom was, one of them has to go. Hands down, I'm 14. So I can't do shit.
Right. That's a tough place to be in as a 14-year-old.
As a 14-year-old, right. So I remember at that time thinking, well, all the heroes in my life are these guys. They're these guys they're big, they're strong, they're pro wrestlers. I bet you if I built my body and if I went to the gym, then I could change this scenario. So from that moment, I think, that defining moment, now years later, I fell in love with the game of football.
Right.
I love playing football. My goals shifted to, well, maybe I got a shot to go to the NFL. I was at University of Miami, great school. We were national champions, played for it on 2 other occasions. I mean, we were balling back then. Those Hurricanes back then, dude. I think you were in Johannesburg at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
that's way back, yeah.
In the 90s, but we were really balling. So I shifted my goals, and then when that didn't happen with the NFL, I took it as a sign. I loved all that. And I had a front row seat watching my dad and my grandfather and everybody in my family live their passions. And it's what I believe we're all born to do.
Wow. And
so I think the yearning of it, it started to happen for me when, to be honest, when we were evicted out of Hawaii. So we were living in a little apartment. We were evicted when I was 13 or 14 years old. And I remember in that moment, I never wanted to feel that again. I was with my mom, and we came home, and there was a padlock, or there was a notice. So you have a week to get out.
And that was it.
And that was it. And I remember just her and I, and she was standing there. She was crying. She didn't know what to do. And my dad was wrestling in Tennessee at that time. And I remember then thinking, I never want to experience this again. And what can I do to change it? What can I do? Like, what can I do with my own
young men in a really powerful and particular way? You know, because it's not just with your daughters. You're so open about challenges. One of those is depression. There was a time in the industry. There was a time in the world. A man couldn't come out and say, "Hey, man, I was struggling with depression here, and this is a moment in my life that was tough."
No.
You couldn't be an action star and say you had anything wrong in your world, and still be the top grossing action star in the world. That I feel like is
and
one
best looking too as well.
This is of course. I forgive me. We'll edit that in, and of course, and the best looking. Let's make sure we throw that in, and the best looking. but like you, that's probably one of my favorite villains you fought against and beaten is the stigma against speaking about the struggle that you may have in your mind. When you spoke about that, when you revealed that. Was there a part of you that was afraid of revealing this?
Didn't even think about it. Away from home.
You're isolated.
Isolated, brother, and it all converged. I went through my first bout of depression back then. Also, back when I had $7 in my pocket, and then when I got a divorce, and so on and so on and so on. And then once I started to realize what it was, I started to not only did it help me realize what it was, but then realize the power of talking about it and how important that is. And now I can tell young men, young women, kids, students, older people, doesn't matter. Hey, it's your superpower. It's okay. Talk about it.
Right.
Be open. If you're feeling blue, if you're feeling fucked up, if you don't have the answers, even if you don't know why, because a lot of times, sure, there's a thing that this thing happened, therefore I'm depressed. But a lot of times people just wake up and the skies are gray.
Yep.
Maybe you were hungover. They thought a lot of things. They thought maybe you need to get on medication or not. But you know what a lot of people thought, and people still think this today, is, but it's a choice. You'll get through it. Wake up. It's a choice to be happy. It's a choice to be sad. So come on, buck up.
Right.
You got this. Move on. When a lot of times you just wake up blue and you don't have that choice. And it's not that easy. You just don't turn it on or turn it off. And I also realized as I went down the road, once I started to realize what it was, why I felt I didn't want to do anything, why I was emotional about things. At first, it happened at University of Miami when I was 18 years old. I came in, everything was great. I was on top. I get injured, complete reconstruction with my shoulder. I was done. I wasn't participating in team meetings, practice. I wasn't going to class.
Think about that connection. Think about how far that was. Think about how far you were from me in South Africa. Think about how far I was from you in the United States. And yet, in that moment, we were connected. And so I think that's what I love. That's why I'm having this conversation with you. That's why I want to talk about things in the world, is because we've forgotten that the same thing that connects us into the worst of each other can be used to connect us into the best of each other.
That's right.
We can reach consensus. We can discover new ideas. We can learn.
Yes.
You don't agree with your friends on everything, but they're still your friends. Your family, you fight with them, but you still love them.
Yes, man.
And so that's literally
we can learn. We can find resolve.
And I don't know anybody who does it better than you. Genuinely, you have a way of stringing it all together. You never left the wrestling fans behind. They still love you. They still respect you. You've never turned your back on it.
No.
You've always loved the fans of your movies and the things that you do. You sport the same thing, the love that you show,
Amen.
Like when people come to a show and you've seen what it's like, man, people will tell you stories. My dad had cancer and the only thing we connected around was this show. My family was going through this tough time and we loved this show. There's a powerful thing that you can do in giving to another the joy that you may not even have in that moment.
Yes.
And so that's something that I've always found for myself, and that's what we were doing your moves in the gym at school. We had detention, and we had this giant room where you would just get locked in, and it was that's your detention. It was like a gym really, but it was a massive gym, and we would put out all these mats, and we'd be like, all right, we're practicing the Rock's moves, let's go. And everyone would get in there, and I'm talking almost two stories high.
Oh yeah.
And we'd climb up on the railing. This was our cage match, and you'd grab someone. You know what I mean? You get underneath
Here
them.
comes
You're
rock
right
bottom.
there, the rock bottom, baby. And
Trev, I appreciate that. Look, I got to thank you for telling me that story. By the way, I love that.
And
story.
you're the best looking man on the planet.
The sexiest man alive.
I mean, this
I've
is come on. This is something we have to acknowledge.
We always have to acknowledge. I make my family acknowledge it every time everybody line up and tell me right now. But I gotta say that thank you for telling me that story. I heard that story. I heard a version of that story.
Yeah,
This version is even better. But it actually goes deeper than what I expected to hear, because this idea that we have this passion, and I always like to say, one of our anchoring tenets in just any business that I do or anything that I do, I want to send people home happy. And I want to make them happy. And it's just that simple. And I feel like if we're lucky enough to be in this position where we can influence a person or two, like me and like you, but this idea that, hey, come to us and I'm going to do all I can to make you feel good. So I love that you asked that, because it reminds me of something that people always ask me. They say, do you ever get tired of it? Tired of you can't go out, everything is back door, through the kitchen, through nothing is in through the front door, hotels, it doesn't matter. everything is a setup. Everything is, you got to call ahead and you can't go anywhere. Like malls and walks, that's all. That's not my cards anymore. And they said, do you get tired of that? And I went, no, never. And it's true, because the alternative to that is going back to those days that you just brought up, where I wasn't famous and no one cared. No one gave a shit. Not that my thought was, oh, I want people to care.
Right.
It's just at that time, that reminds me of a time where things were hard and I didn't have any money, and I don't want to go back to that.
Flea market Rolexes.
Flea market, brother.
But
So I will never complain about fame. And also, I feel the best part of fame is just being able to create experience.
We need to fucking ride this out and let this thing write itself out and figure out the right way to live. But it's definitely not through war.
I feel like I agree with you on that. And my hope was, in the spirit and vein of what you were saying, is that writing it out, getting more information, being open to difference of opinion. Here's how I feel. How do you feel? But tell me, like, truly tell me a little bit more, just so I can understand it. But even in that, the spirit of that, I feel like you get so much more out of that and so much benefit. But I feel like you were saying, things got to get recalibrated, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know, especially over there, I don't know what the end game is there.